Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I want to just provide a little bit of an update, and I always enjoy the community updates because I think the higher that we serve in office, it's very easy to lose touch with the community. And one of the things that I really have tried very hard to do in my role, even as the state CFO, is to have a very external focus to the work that we do, because what we do does matter. And really, the basic work of the office is to mind the store for the state of California. Be sure our tax dollars are going to where they need to go, and to be sure that we help in elevating the public's trust and confidence in our government. And I think when the public understands that there's someone who is tracking every dollar, making sure that it's being spent the way it's supposed to be spent, and that we're looking at waste and abuse and hopefully redirecting those dollars to good uses, that is really what the public expects. And we're all taxpayers in this room, and I think we all really appreciate when that kind of oversight can happen. So as was mentioned, I am a daughter of immigrants, and one of the great things about being able now to serve as a CFO of California is that much of my upbringing was around money. And I'd like to tell this story because certainly as we're looking at the demographic changes in California and how we are approaching a Latino majority population in California, my story is going to be such a common experience among so many of our neighbors. And that is, my parents, my father came here in 1933, essentially kicked out of his home village in China and said, you don't have a future here for your future bride. So go to the United States, which was the land of opportunity, and create a life for yourself so that you can come home and marry your bride and create a life for you and your family. And that is something that sounds like it's out of a movie, but we all know people who have done this. And so my parents were, my father could have run a grocery store, open up a restaurant, or go into the laundry business, and he chose the laundry business. And when you have your own family business, who are the best employees? The kids, right? And so, but I have to tell you, and I was just mentioning this earlier, probably one of the best jobs I've had in my life. You learn how to interact with customers. I had a thing with numbers, and so I was the one tasked out of all my siblings to deal with the vendors, negotiating good prices on supplies we needed, doing the banking, filling out tax forms, including those for the State Board of Equalization. I had no idea what they were when I was a kid, but then to see decades later that I would be serving as an elected member on that board. But this is all to say that these are the experiences that really is the richness of our journey that I think makes the state great, and makes why I believe that diversity is such a great strength for this great state of California. I want to give you a little bit of an economic update because sometimes when I travel different regions of the state, all of you have a good sense of what's happening in this region, but just to kind of step back and see where the state is going as a whole. And then I do want to speak about some specific programs that I would like your help with trying to promote, particularly since it is tax filing season, and we have some work to do in terms of getting money into the pockets of some of our lower income working families. So since the height of the Great Recession, California continues to experience steady growth, and we're well on the road to economic recovery. And for the current fiscal year, we have revenues are outpacing projections that have been assumed in the state budget. And I want to applaud Jim and his colleagues because this has been tough work to do, to actually have California be on strong fiscal footing. And thanks to the voters for the passage of Proposition 30, so that we could stave off some further cuts to public education and some of our other vital public services. But also this took some discipline because there were some tough cuts that were made that really affected Californians in a bad way. And there are still many, many families who are still trying to get a taste of the recovery. But compared to the prior fiscal year, state revenues to date are up by $4.6 billion, or 6.9% above projections. California ended 2015 with a statewide unemployment rate that fell to 5.8%, and experts are predicting that our economy will continue to grow this year well into the next. And over the course of 2015, more than 400,000 new California jobs were added. Now, in terms of the recovery, and I don't think any of us need to look beyond a certain distance within our communities, but it has not touched every Californian with respect to their own economic situation. When you factor in our high cost of living and nearly a quarter California residents living in poverty, 1 out of 4, we know that we have many families who are still struggling. At least 1 in 4 California children is living with food insecurity, not getting enough to eat every day. Last summer, the United Way of California published a report that lays out the real cost measure of living in California, taking into account the necessary expenses like childcare and taxes. And by this measure, half of Latino households have an income below the actual cost of living in California. And that number jumps to over 60% for households headed by a non-citizen. And so, this is the work that we're all committed to doing, because frankly, the whole economy doesn't thrive. And we're standing here with California as the 8th largest economy in the world. But with this kind of poverty, there is not going to be a sustained effect with respect to how strong we're going to be as an economy. Now, we talked about affordable housing earlier, and as a first-generation American, I can tell you that we see this pattern play out of where immigrants usually start out small and work hard to climb the ladder to chase the American dream. And when my parents started their laundry dry cleaning business, we didn't own a home. We all crammed into a studio behind the business. There are a lot of families still living like that today, but really with much better incomes than my parents had growing up, when I was growing up. Today, even this modest lifestyle is unattainable for so many, as the market rate for a studio apartment in San Francisco has risen well over $1,200 a month. So that would require an annual income of more than $50,000 a year to afford that rent. The California minimum wage is a bit higher than the federal minimum wage at $10 an hour, but that hardly accounts for the added expense of living in California. And I know that here in San Jose there is a cost of living adjustment that is tied to the minimum wage, which wasn't triggered this last year. And at $10, an employee working 40 hours a week, all 52 weeks of the year, would earn $20,800. 2 adults working full-time at minimum wage could not afford to rent the average studio apartment in San Francisco and still eat. Somehow people are doing it and they're making it, but it's not a quality of life. And the National Low-Income Housing Coalition found that a family would need an annual household income of $72,000 to afford the average market rate 2-bedroom apartment right here in San Jose. Right here in San Jose. And after the loss of redevelopment agency, San Jose wisely approved an inclusionary zoning ordinance that would require any development of 20 or more homes for sale to include at least 15% affordable units. This is very controversial in a lot of communities, but thank goodness San Jose has adopted that policy. That ordinance was to take effect in 2013, but I know its implementation is still going through some legal hurdles, but this is...
No, the Supreme Court...
Oh, no, they did decide. Okay, actually, that's right, they did decide. Thank you.
And it's 20.
So it's, okay, good. So, and then according to the Housing Trust of Silicon Valley, San Jose has 68,000 fewer affordable homes than it needs. Statewide, our affordable housing demand is about 1.6 million units. And we have all of these incentive programs, tax credit programs, bond programs, and there's a conversation in the legislature now about reprogramming some of the mental health dollars for affordable housing and other options. But we're really addressing these issues on the margin. And so we're really looking for just different communities, different levels of government coming together and making those dollars stretch so much more so we can get many more units built. So I happen to serve on the committee that allocates tax credits for affordable housing. And as I said, it only deals with the issue on the margin. And it's expensive to build affordable housing. And that's really kind of the misnomer, is that even though it's affordable, it actually costs more to build. So we're looking for other options with respect to hopefully some greater federal participation. And that's really where the gap has been, is that there has not been a lot of federal participation. So where you can afford to live also determines, obviously, the quality of schools, which children are attending. And we know that educational opportunity is so critical to giving future generations a leg up on the jobs that are going to be required of this century, particularly in the tech arena and clean energy. We know that the local control funding formula, which our office has been asked to keep an eye out as a potential area to do some selected audits, is one that really gave a lot of communities an opportunity to come together to look at how to address some serious needs with respect to really targeting those students who are English language learners and those who are from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. And I know there are community level conversations now occurring where we're going to take those two concepts of really focusing resources towards English language learners, economically disadvantaged students, and looking at how we can ensure their success and their eligibility for higher education. And so this is something that really, with respect to education funding, has been a pretty significant reform where the dollars are trying to go towards addressing specific needs. We also know that with respect to higher education, we continue to see tuition increases with our higher education institutions. There, I know, is a lot of debate in the legislature now about how we can ensure that particularly the University of California can keep more of their slots open for California resident students. And I was asked earlier, and this was a bill that was in the last session of the legislature, SCA 5, which really tried to really embrace the concept of affirmative action again with respect to higher education admissions. This is going to be a topic that will continue to be discussed, and as I said earlier, with some of the community organizations, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, MALDEF, others are coming together around is the idea that with the Prop 209 prohibitions with respect to establishing quotas and really having anything that is specifically ethnic or race-based is to look at economic disadvantage and certainly students with special needs as a way of really trying to open up more opportunities for those who have been underrepresented in our higher education institutions. So let me talk about where we have also another crisis. So we talked about then the opportunities for our young people and hopefully working together to expand those. We're talking about opportunities for families to be able to have a quality of life with respect to being able to afford to live hopefully close to where they work. But we also have a crisis with respect to retirement. And our retirement crisis is pretty significant. We have a very, very low savings rate in the United States, and here in California, with the high cost of living, it's even worse. And when we look at how we can ensure retirement security, I serve on the two public pension boards, the California Public Employees Retirement System Board, as well as the California State Teachers Retirement System Board. And we are doing everything we can to reduce the cost of how we administer those funds. We're looking at really having more aggressive management over our assets and where we invest them. We're also looking at mitigating the risk in the event of a next downturn and becoming more conservative with certain aspects of our portfolio. And and our assumed rate of return is 7.5% over the long term. So this is something that I still believe the economy can someday produce, but in the meantime, we still have to pay out benefits. So we have about 7 million Californians who do not have any form of retirement savings provided through their employer. And I also have the opportunity to serve on the Secure Choice Retirement Savings Investment Board, and our meeting next Monday will be around the adoption of a plan design that we will submit to the legislature for hopefully enactment that will create a savings plan for those. It's about 6.8 million who probably will be eligible, but through the employer community, through automatic enrollment, and individuals can opt out, but to begin the habit of starting to put away a little bit every month for retirement. And this is really the habit we need to encourage early on. And so we hope that by having a state-sponsored program, we can work with our employer communities. And it's not been without some objection. Our employers do believe this will increase administrative burdens on them. But we also know that if we don't have Californians who feel secure in their retirement, who can plan for their later life after work, that we will have more reliance on public programs that will drive up costs for all of us. So we look forward to working on coming up with an option for the legislature when we meet on Monday. But where I really need your help is right now. We are in the middle of tax filing season. How many of you have filed your taxes already this year?
We did today.
All right.
Today.
Today? That's good. Very good. Good, okay. That's all right, that's all right. So the deadline this year is April 18th, not the 15th, but April 18th, because of the Federal Emancipation Day holiday. So we have a couple more days until the deadline. But we have, for the first time in California, thanks to Senator Bell and his colleagues, and this was really something that I've been fighting almost 25 years for, but we have in California our own state version of the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is a credit for our lowest income working families. And this is important because most of these families probably have never even filed a tax return because they haven't met the minimum income threshold. And there are 600,000 Californians who are eligible for this credit, and I need your help to find every single one of them. We found a third of them because they come forward and they've claimed the credit. But the reason why this is important is because we have a federal companion called the Federal Earned Income Tax Credit that's been in place since the mid-1960s. It's been the greatest anti-poverty program, but we leave over $1 billion on the table every year in the federal credit. Those who are eligible for the state credit, because it is a different income criteria for the state credit, are more than likely going to be also eligible for the federal credit. So we can actually have the family with children claim up to $9,000 between the two credits. And where we can send them to get them help to do that are our voluntary income tax assistance centers, the VITA centers. And we have them all throughout San Jose in this region. But please go to the Franchise Tax Board website, www.ftb.ca.gov. And, but more importantly, spread the word and really start to look at who do you know. And I think all of us, I've driven, physically driven a couple people to voluntary sites to claim their refunds. But we know that there is a big concentration of them right here in the Silicon Valley and in San Jose. The majority of them are in Los Angeles County, San Diego, Orange County, Inland Empire, Central Valley. But this is money that families can claim. Anything we can do to help just increase their purchasing power, relieve the daily burden of their stress of what they have to provide for, and hopefully allow them to save some of it would be a really terrific thing. And the governor has graciously added the funding for next year for this program, but he will cut it if he sees that we don't have takers for this credit. And so we really need to find every single one of those claimants. So help us do that. And at the voluntary sites, we have multi-languages that are offered for those who come to claim the credit. And it's actually quite simple when we can find these families. So, and we are losing a lot of talent in state government because we don't pay enough, frankly, for these occupations and for these professions. And so one of my commitment is to really try to bring more young people into these professions. And so during this tax filing season, we are, I have started a pilot program with Fresno State, and we will spread it throughout the state next year. But we recruited the business school at Fresno State so that the students who are learning about auditing, learning accounting, are actually the volunteers that are serving these VITA centers, helping people fill out their tax returns. And I have to tell you, from the first week that we put these students at the VITA centers to now, they are so enthused about the work that they get to do to help families actually get money back in their pockets because they have a skill and they've been trained and certified by the Internal Revenue Service. And they're going to be our next generation of financial leaders. And I hope that they will come into state government to do that. But it's really a privilege to serve as your CFO, and this has been my discipline for over 30 years because I learned at a young age through my parents' laundry and dry cleaning business. If I couldn't negotiate a good price on buttons, 1 month, it could mean that we weren't going to have enough food on the table. And so, I really learned the value of money very early. But it's also that as I look at the work of this particular office, the Controller's Office, I do believe that this office has the ability, and with your help, to elevate the public's trust and confidence in their government, because we are minding the store. And over the last over a year since I've been in office, my audit team has been able to uncover $2.5 billion of public taxpayer money that has been directed to unallowed uses. That doesn't mean that our coffers are $2.5 billion richer. It means that we then redirected those funds to the programs and services that were going without. And so this is the work that I think is important to do. We need more young people to come into these professions. And then lastly, let me just say this. Many of you in this room, and I know your neighbors and those in your community, have made terrific sacrifices, particularly during the Great Recession and even coming out of it. And the riches of California are only but for a lot of the sacrifices that many Californians have had to make. And as I look at, just even standing here with the voters giving us Proposition 30, temporary tax increases that now will likely be on the ballot to be extended, I think about how California is doing so much better than the rest of the country, financially and fiscally. But that's the big picture. And we all know what the little picture looks like, just in our own neighborhoods and our own communities. But I am proud to say that for the first time since 2007, the state of California will not have to do any external borrowing to pay our bills. I just want to thank all of you for the tremendous support that you've given me over the years and the work that I do. I have tremendous awe of the work that many of you do every day in working with the communities that you do. And I'm just really pleased to be here. I have said this before, we have an open door policy in my office as controller. Frankly, I don't believe any office is high enough to where that's not the case. And you elect me, you hold me accountable, I expect you to hold me accountable, but more importantly, as you come to me with issues, if it's not under our purview, we will be sure that you get the help that you need. And then a shameless plug, if I may, go on the controller's website, www.sco.ca.gov or claimit.gov, unclaimed property. I'm holding on to $8 billion of property that banks and insurance companies have turned over to us. Please search for your name. Search for your family members, and more than likely you'll come up with something. But I will tell you the fight that I have had, and it's been a great fight because it's a righteous fight. We have been fighting life insurance companies. Life insurance companies have been holding on to death benefits that belong to beneficiaries after their insureds have died. We just had 183,000 policies that were identified for which death benefits were turned over to the state because we sued the insurance companies. And so this is the work that we do every day. It's the biggest consumer program, but we need you to help spread the word to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family members. Go search for your name. We will hold it for as long as it takes to find the rightful owner of the property, but it's $8 billion that really could help families all around the state. And some of it's not money. I think we've got some diamonds in the vault and other things like that. Some interesting memorabilia and really sentimental things like war medals and things that mean something to families. But those that are monetary value, we want to put that money back into the pockets of the rightful owners. So thank you all very much for the great privilege of serving as your CFO, and I would look forward to continuing working with all of you. Thank you.
Up to California, from Mexico you've come, to the Sacramento Valley, to toil in the sun. Your wife and 7 children, they're working everyone. And what will you be giving to your brown-eyed children of the sun? Your face is lined and wrinkled, your age is 41. Your back is bent from picking, like your dying times have come. But your children's eyes are smiling, for their lives have just begun. And what will you be giving to your brown-eyed children of the sun? marched on Easter Sunday, to the Capitol you come. You fight for union wages, and your fight has just begun. Well, you're a proud man, and you're a free man, and this heritage is one that you can be giving to your brown-eyed children of the sun. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De